Hello and welcome to World Today. My name is Yero Jallo. The war in Gaza has entered its second month, and despite intense behind-the-scenes diplomatic circle, there is no end in the sight as Israeli and Palestinian resistance fighters continue to slaughter it out in the densely populated areas of northern and southern Gaza Strip. The war is one of the most vicious seen between these two warring parties. Thousands are reported dead in Gaza, many of them children and women. Since Gaza October 7 surprise attack deep into Israel and the subsequent Israeli invasion of Gaza, there has been an unrelenting level of fighting between the two sides. Civilians' infrastructure has been reportedly targeted, with hospitals, UN safe zones, and even journalists being targeted, particularly in the discriminate Israeli bombardment of the densely populated areas. Israeli authorities claim Hamas resistance fighters are using hospitals as operating bases, a claim the Palestinians have strongly denied. But why are hospitals, civilians, and US safe zones and journalists being targeted in the war? And are we closer a truce in finding a permanent ceasefire for humanitarian assistance to reach these desperate civilians in the Gaza Strip? Well, joining me to answer those questions are our usual guests, Demba Ali Jao, former information minister and media expert, and of course, Ambassador Esa Bokar C, our diplomatic and security affairs as well as world affairs analyst. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it's been more than a month since Hamas launched that audacious attack on Israel, and we have seen Israel's response. I mean, what do we make of this development since the event of October 7th? Gentlemen.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that Hamas were wrong in doing what they did, particularly targeting civilians in Israel. It was wrong. I mean, everybody should condemn it. But the Israeli response was very disproportionate, absolutely disproportionate. Because for them, they are also targeting civilians in Gaza. What they are doing, destroying, not only killing people, but wanton destruction of, property. Racing down buildings and, civilian infrastructure. I think that was very much, disproportionate to what Hamas did. So, you just, it is just to, it's just like correcting a wrong with another wrong, a much bigger wrong. So this is, the way I've seen the situation in Gaza, definitely.
I was going to say, what do you make of the developments since the event of October 7th?
Thank you very much. Well, I would say that these are interesting times on the geostrategic arena, because as we analyzed earlier, what is legal, what is illegal, what is political, and what is emotional in this effervescence is something that we should definitely diagnose and look at. I would agree with Honorable Demba Ali Jawo that Hamas, it's like made a mistake. It's not even like that's the whole strategically. It's a mistake for one to wake up and then go into another country and then do what they did. Others would argue it out, But what I want analysts like us, whether you're on BBC, on CNN, or any other place,
or GRTS,
like us here, exactly. What they should bear in mind, this is not about a blame game. This is about going around the table and talking to each other in a level-headed way. Because, you see, like when the Sudan war started, I coined something that I call the spillover effect. We agreed here. My brother Honorable did also beautiful analysis on it. We knew that this war between Israel, some people say Hamas, but it's a war between Israel and Palestine. And Palestine is composed of Hamas, it's composed of PLO, Fatah, Intifada. It's composed of course, all those compositions have a vessel, and that vessel is called the Palestinian population itself. Because every organization in Palestine will associate itself with Palestine in one way or the other. What I am worried about is the spillover effect. We have seen the Houthi rebels in Yemen capturing an Israeli ship, and then the repercussion would come. I mean,
and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Exactly. Yeah. War is war. I mean, like I always say, when you're at war, I think I've got some schooling about it myself, so I understand war. I mean, when you're at war, you cannot be firing a machine gun and using a microphone and say, hello, bro, let's speak about peace. You can't do that. A machine gun is a machine gun. I mean, of course, the gun's language is the language that nobody would interpret for you. Everybody speaks the gun language because when you hear a gun, you know what it is about. But I think this is where I want to stop for now, and then we come back later on it. What I would advise is negotiation. But negotiation cannot happen without ceasefire. And I do hear projections like, oh, the ceasefire is not going to stop. I mean, the war is not going to stop after the ceasefire. I pray that the ceasefire will now turn to negotiation, will now turn to, at the end of the day, let's sit down and talk. At the end of the day, all these things will come back to be what? Museums of artillery, museums of the best jet fighter that was killing who? Not animals, but people. So let them understand that war does not solve anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is part of humanity, it is part of existence, but I don't think it solves anything.
Absolutely. Honorable Minister, we are into the second month of the war between Israel and the Palestinian resistance fighters in Gaza. Are we any closer to a truce or a lasting ceasefire?
It appears that there is talk of a truce. I mean, maybe today or any day now, because I understand Qatar has been involved in the negotiation for a truce at least, so that they can be able to release some hostages. Both the hostages held by Hamas as well as some Palestinians who are in Israeli prisons. So I think the negotiations are based on that, and I think they've reached a kind of an agreement. Now is the question of the Israeli war cabinet accepting, the conditions, and if it is done probably today, maybe we'll soon at least have a truce. But Israel is still insisting that the truce is going to be a very short one, because as far as they are concerned, I think they have agreed that Hamas would release at least 50 women and children from the hostages. And after that, probably they will negotiate even for a further truce also. But the question is now, after let's assume that all the hostages have been released, what happens next? Because it appears Netanyahu and his war cabinet are intent on wiping out Hamas.
Absolutely.
Which is impossible. They can't do that. Hamas is a concept, not individual per se. The whole of Gaza are Hamas, whether directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
So that is the question now. What happens next? That is the question that everybody is interested in, because there is absolutely no way that Israel will now allow Hamas to operate from Gaza. So what are they going to do? What is the solution? That is the question we are. But I'm sure, just as Ambassador Z has said, there must be negotiation. That is the only way. Fighting cannot solve the issue. They must talk. They must come around the table and discuss it. And probably, with what we have seen in Gaza, with all the destruction, the wanton killing of, women and children, at the end of the day, probably something positive will come out of this. Because the world attention has been called to the situation, this pathetic situation in Gaza, and it cannot be allowed to continue. Something must be done to at least find a solution to it.
Something must be done to find a solution to it. But Ambassador C, are we closer to a truce or a lasting ceasefire?
Yes, I think what I would say is that
looking at Netanyahu's cabinet stand on this war.
I think Netanyahu's cabinet should understand one thing. They are an offshoot of the population. I don't think any Israeli would say that they want to live in war for the rest of their lives. No. Leadership goes with defending the interest, the lives and the properties of your citizens. That's true. But I don't think defense would always be being a macho kind of terminator running around and bombarding people. That's not the only way. I mean, there are other things that you can do to make sure that people will feel protected. I think what I would advise at this point is that let them sharpen their listening skills. And also, I would also expand it to other people who are in other parts of the world, including the Gambia. Some of our people will call them Islamic scholars. I don't think it is advisable for them to take this as an Islam-Judaism war. It is not that.
Interesting.
Some people,
interesting point here. I think we need to also belabor on that point.
Exactly, because sometimes we can go to the pulpit and think that we are trying to fight for somebody, but let it not be protracted on one specific area, because there are so many other countries in the world that are Muslim countries that are affected. We have seen the case of the Myanmar people, right? So I think what we should premise our arguments on, or in fact, it shouldn't be an argument. It shouldn't be a debate. It shouldn't be some confrontation, because if you have some emotionally charged Jack and an emotionally charged Ibrahim here, an emotionally charged Isa, an emotionally charged, Mary over there, there will be no solution. So I think what we should understand, this is a question of resolutions, United Nations resolutions. You will hear them mention words /this, /that, but let's come back to books and look at who was charged with the responsibility of promulgating a certain resolution and who is expected to obey or to follow that resolution and did not do it. The moment you do that, there will be the graph or the tension of all these effervescence everywhere will go down. But if we apportion blame, but we don't revisit responsibility, there'll be no solution. So I think our people also, let us also bring them to understand one thing. This is not like if I sit here and say, okay, Hamas, you made a mistake here. Israel, your reaction is disproportionate, as Honorable is saying. The particular individual said, oh, Hamas, you made a mistake here. Somebody will tell you, oh, no, you shouldn't say that because you are a Muslim. No, that's not the issue. The issue is we all have to learn from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, we know that he had an agreement called the Agreement of Hudaybiyah. And we know that he was able to manage those times. And in fact, there was more savagery at that time, So nobody is saying that don't defend yourself. Nobody is saying that being denied your state is right. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there cannot be a solution without Israel also recognizing the fact that Palestine has to live in a dignified territory as its own state, managing its own things, attending UN. Because look at it now. By form, I can say Palestine is a recognized country. They have a territory. They have currency. They have a national anthem.
They have a president.
They have a president.
A functioning
They have a constitution. They are a United Nations member state. I have not heard that United Nations has expelled Palestine yet.
Not
they
yet.
are still there.
Not
So
yet.
if they have all that as a territory recognized to be a country, if you go by the criteria, what is used for a territory to be recognized as a nation or a United Nations member state, Palestine must be respected. But we also within some want to turn it into a circle or a hegemony of Isa, Abu Bakr, okay, even if we are wrong, let us not say it. No, Allah does not recognize that. He recognizes the truth. And the truth is neither side should whisper the other. Let them sit down and talk to each other and save the world of this endless war. The war of Palestine and Israel is a fresh wound on the world body constitution. Over the years, we have to heal this wound with truth and facts.
Interesting. DA, let's still discuss the issue of the truce, because there are behind-the-scenes negotiations led by Qatar, we all know, as you just said earlier on, to get the two sides agreed to a prisoner swap and a truce. Why did it take so long to reach to this point, DA?
Okay, maybe before I read that, let me just emphasize on what Ambassador C has said about this question of some Gambians or some people, I mean, taking the simplistic view that, this is a Muslim-Jewish war. It is definitely not. It's much more than that. This is war for land. It's a land issue. That's why they call it the NAPTA or something, Nakba or whatever, it's about land. And, I mean, in fact, Palestine has a sizable population of Christians. I've been to Bethlehem. I've been to the area, the manger where Jesus was born. And the mayor of Bethlehem is a Christian. And, until recently, the majority of the people in Bethlehem were Christians. And they are Palestinians. They are suffering the same way that, all the other Palestinians are suffering.
DA, I think we need to refresh the memories of the viewers that most of those in the struggle are Christians. In fact, they're not only Muslims.
I mean, we all know Hanan Asrawi. Yes, I mean, that lady, very strong lady.
Very strong lady.
And then you can remember the late George Habash. Of course. He was the biggest enemy of Israel. These are all Christians.
Wife of the late
she's still alive and she's a Christian. So, it's not a question of Muslims and Judaism. This is a question of land. We know about the Balfour Declaration of 1917. When they created the state of Palestine, using the Balfour Declaration, and that's how it is. So from then, the Palestinians or the Jews gradually took over land from the Palestinians, expelled some of them. So it's a question of who owns the land, and it's a question of land ownership. That's the thing. So it's definitely very simplistic to think that it's a religious though. It is not. On the question of the truce,
so why does it take?
Why did it take this long? Yeah. Well. I think it's kind of intransigence. People like Netanyahu, we all know how hawkish Netanyahu is, and he's got a right-wing government. Most of the parties that he has come to form a coalition are very right-wing in there. For them, the Palestinians have no place in what they call the land of Israel. That's the question. You are dealing with people who are very hawkish in the way they look at the situation. But honestly, there is no other way but they must talk. Because they cannot expel the Palestinians completely from Palestine. They cannot do that. People are even talking about the Netanyahu government thinking about expelling the people from Gaza to the Sinai desert or whatever, and then taking over completely. That's not possible. It cannot happen. There is no way. So they have to come to the negotiating table. And why it has taken this long to, as I say, it's just the hawkish nature of the Netanyahu government. They are not prepared to listen to anybody. As far as they are concerned, Hamas has committed a crime and they must punish the whole of Gaza for it. That is their standpoint. But it cannot work. It definitely must come to a negotiating table.
Yeah, because the Netanyahu government is seeing Gaza as Hamas, nothing else but Hamas. But Ambassador C, why would it take this long for a truce to be reached?
Yeah, I think it's taking too long. Like I'm saying, wherever it is in the world, when war erupts, those who fan the flames of war are the people who are emotionally charged. You see, if you are not rational, you are not reasonable, you are emotionally charged, it's just like you are driving in fog or you are driving in smoke. A cow passes by, you knock the cow. A hippo passes by, you knock the hippo because you have no vision, because you're clouded. You need to calm down, reason with facts. And the fact is, number one fundamental fact is, there can never be stability, understanding, and peace without there being two states to respect each other, near each other. There cannot be. So, is it about Netanyahu being hawkish, like my honorable would say, or is it about another person being sheepish? I don't think so. The thing is, like I was saying one day, I believe his leadership is being tested by the Israelis, by the Palestinians, and by the world. Sometimes also you have to understand one thing. What is your identity card? Is your ID card always an Apache helicopter? Is your ID card always a supersonic jet fighter? That's not it. Sometimes also you have to come back to reason and say, look, this thing has been going on. I'm sorry to say, but Albert Einstein, I think originally he's a Jew, right? But everybody in the world accepts it. I have lived with people in Taiwan, in America, anywhere, very fine, good people, and they are Jewish. So I don't think I would go by, this is Judaism, this is Islam, this man is a Jew, this man, no. I will go by the perception of a human being claiming to belong to one hegemony versus the other. So I think what they should do is this. Let the Israeli government understand that not everybody will repel them when they stand their ground on something that is correct. Let them understand that. But if you move with the prejudiced mindset that particular individual is a Muslim, he would never appreciate me, no. And if the Arabs also move with the mindset that this particular individual is a Jew, they will never like me, no. So it will be more like coming together as human beings, as children of the world. I know some people will say, oh, it's so easy to say it that way. You see, people who say these kind of things, they are the ones who maintain war in this world. Even like President Reagan once said, he said, I think I can't quote the exact words, he said, a false peace plan is better than a real plan of trouble or war.
Absolutely.
Even if this peace plan I'm drawing, you say, oh yeah, it's even still better than the actual and the real plan of war.
Indeed.
You know?
Indeed.
So I think, yeah, a truce is possible, because that's why I said they should sharpen their listening skills. But if your listening skills are clouded by being emotionally charged, by prejudice, feelings, you can never see anything good in the other party. And the moment you cannot see anything good on the other party, you will try to find a target.
Absolutely.
Right now, the target is who? Everybody is saying war between Israel and Hamas. Where is Hamas?
Is in Palestine.
When the bombs drop, are they going to only kill Hamas fighters?
Absolutely.
No way.
Exactly.
It's the Palestinians
So
that has,
it is a question of, you see, a war, just like evolution, war does not know morality. That's why it is called war. When you start fighting, there is nothing like, oh, Isa, wait for me, let me drink my coffee, and then we continue fighting. No, no, no. You know, I think a truce is possible, Alajiro. The truce is sharpening your listening skills and don't move with a prejudiced mindset. Then you will be able to talk to your brother and your sister. You bring lasting peace. Because Middle East, Israel, in fact, and Palestine, do you know that people don't know, but they have some of the greatest and the smartest people in this world. You have scientists in this part of the world. That amazes me. Some of the most intelligent people in the world, you find them in Palestine and Israel. Scientists, you know, pilots, people don't know that. This is a place, when it is left stable, they can do a lot for this world. Believe me, they can.
Now, let's look at the humanitarian situation in the region and Gaza in particular. This war is unprecedented, particularly the effects of civilians, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And just as Ambassador C says, it has some ripple effects within the sub-region and throughout the world, in fact. Because we know the standpoint of the United States is very much behind Israel. They're supplying them with weapons and everything else, logistics and everything else. So, and the rest of the world, like the Arab world, for instance, they are looking at this, and the other countries as well, seeing this. So definitely, their relationship with the U.S. will never be the same again. You know, I understand even some Arab and Muslim states have gone to China to discuss the issue. Why China? We all know the relationship between China and the United States. If they decide to go to China, then it means that they have something against the United States in this case. And that's the thing. So, you know, it has definitely some ripple effect, not only in the United States, but in Europe as well, because European Union has designated Hamas as a terrorist organization. They are not willing to discuss with Hamas. And, you know, we've seen how they are, treating the Palestinian issue, comparing it with, the Ukraine war. They have embraced the Ukrainian refugees, you know, sending all kinds of support to Ukraine. Why are they not helping the Palestinians? We know that the Palestinians are suffering much more than the Ukrainians. All these years, since 1948, since the State of Israel was created, Palestinians are suffering a lot from the hands of the Israelis. And we expected the West and the whole world actually to come to their aid, but nobody seems to be doing so. But, you know, we've seen how they have embraced the Ukrainian issue. So, you know, it has very serious ripple effects, and it's important that, you know, the world realizes that something needs to be done to kind of settle this matter once and for all.
Let me just skip briefly to this issue dear mentioned. The Arab world is now thinking of China as an option instead of the United States. Isn't it a bit scary?
You see, this is why I began by saying that these are interesting times for the geostrategic arena. You see, most of these powers, be it China, US, France, and other countries would say, oh, now I'm siding. I don't think that is a solution. That's not a solution for any Arab country. In fact, thank you for the question, because it makes me bring some of them in the arena. With all that we are saying about other countries, they are not sympathetic, they are not this, they are not that. There were airliftings. The airlifting happened in Afghanistan. People were lifted from there to where? United States, right? Airlifting happened in Somalia. People were lifted and then taken to the United States, isn't it? Okay. Airlifting happened in Kosovo and other places when the war was ravaging. Where were they taken? To the United States. But I'm also trying to find out, it's not to be the devil's advocate here. And in fact, there is no devil anyway. It's just a terminology. But what are the Arab countries also doing?
Good question.
Other than sit and then organize conferences and then talk about it, promulgate resolutions. I mean, there was a time that things happened. I don't know, I forgot. It's about, there was some war somewhere. Is it
Syria?
Syria, yeah.
Those people who were traversing the borders, going to Romania, going through Belarus,
navigating to the Europe.
They were rejected. That's a fact that people should tell the Arab countries too. What are they doing? Is there airlifting? Because airlifting and holding people until the war is over doesn't mean you are accepting. Some of them will argue and say, oh yeah, when we take them out, that's what the Israelis would want to see, so that nobody is saying that. You are saving them so that when the war stops, they will come back and rebuild their countries. I wonder what some of them are doing. I mean, these are hard facts people have to talk about. What are they doing other than meetings, other than passing resolutions, other than condemnations and press releases? What are they doing for the Palestinian refugees? What are they doing?
Good question.
Yeah, but the thing is here, I mean, let's also accept the fact that Israel controls what gets into Gaza and what gets out of Gaza.
Yeah, but
if these people go out of Gaza, Israel will never allow them to get back into Gaza. So, the neighboring countries know that, and they don't want to empty Gaza. I mean, because that is the solution for Israel.
But the question here is,
that's one part.
What tangible solution are they coming up with?
I just wanted to clarify that. One part I'm talking about the airlifting. It's not like I said, others will say, oh, if we take them out, now don't take them out. But the other thing is that you can even pledge, you can even propose, you can even, Israel, I would not agree with my brother honorable there, because if we are to talk about you are taken out and saved for a while to come back, they can't stop it, because that's why when the war stops, resolutions govern. If they govern, they cannot stop it. If they don't want to agree for them to come back, then that's a blatant way of showing people that I don't respect the United Nations. And I don't think Israel would want to openly say in a statement that we don't care about
but there are hundreds of resolutions, and Israel is refusing to abide by them.
Correct, which I mentioned earlier today.
Absolutely.
Correct, I agree.
Looking at the resolutions that have passed over the years, Israel is giving
correct. And I said that. I said the one is legal and illegal. Those who do not respect the resolutions, we know them, right? Yeah. I said that.
And Israel
so
is
the
part
issue
of it.
is like, I want us to, Israel, of course, should be put to task. But the Arab world also, brother, we have to tell them to do something to man up.
Now, DA, another interesting part of it is we have seen attacks on journalists, and with many have been killed during the past few weeks. This is unprecedented.
It is.
In 3 seconds.
In fact, over 30 journalists have been killed, since the start of the war.
Sad,
I think they're talking about 38 or something, because even yesterday 2 journalists were killed at the border with Lebanon. So, it's unprecedented, and they are deliberately targeted by the Israelis. I mean, that's obvious. Yeah.
Sad moments. We almost running out of time. In 3 seconds, your take on being killed.
Well, I have no idea whether they are 30 or 40 or whatever. But
absolutely,
this is what I was saying.
As of yesterday,
the victims are always not the ones with arms. It's the civilians, the journalists, children, unfortunately animals. That's why the war should stop.
Well,
Thank you.
gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We thank you so much for your time on The World Today. If you want to be part of the show, you can follow us on our website, that is www.grts.gm, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and like info. Thank you so much for joining us. And you can also join us next week for another edition of the program. From me, Yero Jallo, bye for now.